Hello, what nuts, Humpty Dump Nuts, and I forgot to say this, but I'm pretty sure after Saturday, everybody, I'm talking all of Edmonton, doing the hump nuts. It is Monday, June 17th, 12:02 p.m. in the United States, and this is What Chaos, presented by Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports Made Easy. My name is DJ Bean, that is Peter Blackburn, and that is Sean DePaz. You boys seem confused. I meant like everybody fucking.
Yeah, well, no, I've gathered that, but I was trying to understand like how you would know that. Everybody just walking around saying that they were fucking? Or is this assumptions on your part?
You haven't seen Mad Men, but Megan Calvey is throwing a party for Dawn's birthday party. And she says, for Dawn's birthday, and she says, as she's preparing, she's like, this is going to be a good party. The parties that I throw, people go home and have sex. And like the vibes from the party are like, yeah, okay, I get this. The vibes from people walking around was like, when people walk around after the Oilers game, people have sex. First of all, everybody was just high-fiving each other. Did we talk about this yesterday?
Not yesterday, but
I tweeted about it. Everybody high fives, and I saw some dudes on the elevator after game 4 in my hotel. And they were all wearing Oilers stuff. They were all fired up. I was dressed a little incognito. So they were like, well, you're not a Panthers fan, are you? And I was like, no. And they were like, we have you cornered if you are. And I was like, I'm just going to curry favor with them. I was like, oh, don't Kachuk me, bro. And they were like, yo, this guy gets it. So I said, hey, while I got you, this scene is amazing. What's with the high fives? And one of them was like, what are you talking about? I was like, everybody outside, if you go outside, it's just a bunch of people walking up to each other going like that. Just like, oh, there's a guy down the street I haven't high-fived yet. And most of the group got it. They were like, oh, yeah, that is a little weird that we do that. And then the other one was like, do you guys not high-five? And then he high-fived me.
I mean, that's a society that I want to live in. We used to live in a society where people would just high-five each other all the time.
But then we got all woke.
Yeah, exactly.
And Fauci said we can't high-five anymore. And then Kamala Harris
Put the jersey on. You're freaking me out. You've been wearing that jersey half on to start this episode. But I do think that like high five has become somewhat of a dying art. When you go back and watch old sports clips, if they do crowd shots, there's always people fucking high-fiving.
Well, you know why this looks so good. You know why? Because high-fiving was new back then.
I guess. I do constantly forget that high-fiving is not like a forever thing.
High-fiving is still like a young thing.
It's still a pretty new thing.
Like, I'm trying to think. Like, high-fiving is more recent than the Beatles, I believe.
That's crazy.
I think high-fiving was like a 70s thing. Sean, you could look that up.
I'm trying to remember exactly. It was invented by a baseball player,
yep.
Was it not? I believe a gay baseball player.
Whoa.
If I remember correctly.
Baseball is for everyone.
Baseball player?
Yeah, it came out later.
Really?
It was made, with Dusty Baker and Glenn Burke.
I did.
Oh, Dusty Baker did invent it.
Yeah,
yes,
that's amazing. That dude, that's so amazing for Dusty Baker to be like, I invented the high five.
Yeah, Glenn Burke was the other guy, and he is a gay man.
Would you rather invent the high five, or would you rather claim to invent the wrap sandwich, like Bobby Valentine? Bobby Valentine claims that he invented the wrap.
I would rather invent something that does not require the word claim to be
Yeah, I was going to say, I would rather actually invent something than say I invented something.
I mean, we don't fully know if Dusty Baker did invent the high five.
But at least there was like
say
video.
Both of them were true. Which one would you rather invent?
the high five.
So I would definitely rather invent the high five, and it's not even close because the wrap to me is just a worse version of a sandwich in
I'd agree.
most cases.
Or like a fake burrito. Like it's just.
The only thing that I'll say is chicken Caesar salad wraps are incredible.
Wraps are awesome, but yeah, no. And but really, like, at least there's the first ever video of somebody doing a high five is these men. So they have a legitimate claim. For you to show up in the 21st century or whatever and be like, I invented the rap. No, you didn't. You just didn't. It's simply not true.
Well, that's some grab ass to start today's episode, huh? DJ's back in studio. The boys are back in town, as some would say.
Yes.
And the season's not over yet. So
it's
is
not.
the takeaway from the weekend.
That's the big takeaway from the weekend. I'll just jump right in and say that like Game 5 is our last, before things get really, really serious, but like Game 5 is going to be the last like real fucking hockey game of the season. It could be the last actual hockey game of the season, but this is going to be the hardest game until we get to Game 7.
Why do you say last real hockey game?
Because this is Game 5. The Panthers are at home. Cup is in the building. They can close it out. And there's also the air of, we probably don't want to have this be 3-2 going back to Edmonton, because I think you would agree. Once it's 3-2, it is a series. Like, for real, we're right now in not over territory. Once it gets to 3-2, the conversation is opened back up again. And we don't know how this game will go, but as I said yesterday on our little mini episode, depending on what happens in a Game 5, especially if Florida loses, we could have a whole lot of questions of, oh man, what's it going to be like for Bob going back into this building? What's it going to be like for, say McDavid is now really hammering points, say he pops in 2 in Game 5. There's so much that can happen in Game 5 where if Edmonton wins, we come away from it saying, oh, we're not quite flipping a coin, but we're reaching around in our pockets to see if we've got one.
Yeah, I would say Game 5 presents the real first opportunity for a shift. Like, you can look at Game 4 and everything that went right for Edmonton and say there's hope, but I don't think there's a shift yet. And I wouldn't say that Game 5 is the last real game, but it's the probably the first real opportunity to be worried if you're a Panthers fan.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
Yeah, because in Game 4, you started to get a little bit of are they just playing hard or are they frustrated? And I rewatched some of that stuff in the second period from Game 4. I'm going with frustrated. I'm going with like the Panthers were big mad. And Connor McDavid was giving a little bit of the you mad bro back to him. Sure, it could just be a one-off. I totally believe in it being a one-off. But if it's not,
yeah, I believe in the Florida Panthers' maturity level. I believe in their adultness as a hockey team. I believe in their bounce back. I mean, we even saw it from Game 1 to Game 2 with the shift in their defensive game after 18 high-danger chances in Game 1 to 1 in Game 2. Like, this is a team that bounces back. I'm not really worried about the Panthers right now. Where my worry would be, based off of what you just said that we saw in Game 4, the frustration level from Matthew Tkachuk. Like, the Matthew Tkachuk forearm shiver to the back of Connor McDavid's head is like Matthew Tkachuk's most noteworthy contribution in this series. He got an assist in Game 3. That's his only point in the series. And we've started to see a downtick in Matthew Tkachuk's ice time over the course of these playoffs, really, because you look at versus Boston, he averaged about 19 and a half minutes per game in that series. Then in the New York series, 18 minutes per game in that series, which is a fine, close enough number. You just say, whatever, however the games go, maybe he just gets a little less time. This series, he's averaging 16 and a half minutes per, and that's down 3 minutes from 2 rounds prior. I think that's noteworthy. Also, the lack of production, the lack of his visibility in the series. I wonder if he's hurt, and if he's not hurt, like, what the fuck is going on there?
And this goes back to the Leon Draisaitl conversation of yesterday. Has Matthew Tkachuk's past success and prowess set him up for a no excuses thing? Where if we find out he's hurt, what's the first question going to be? Is he hurt as much as he was last year? Because he was very hurt last year.
I mean, he
and
literally
was
needed
awesome.
to be like a crane needed to get him out of bed last year in the Stanley Cup Final.
And he was still, I mean, by the time it got to the final, it was bad. But I mean,
Yeah.
he was hurt from, I think, the first round on, and still was absolutely the engine of that, and still obviously produced. They can still win the cup without, like, I mean, they've won rounds without him. There have been so many stretches this postseason where you're like, hey, and don't forget, Tkachuk hasn't really gotten going yet. And he doesn't end up getting going, and somebody else steps up, because that's what the Panthers are.
Yeah, I mean, but I do wonder if this takes a little bit of steam out of the like the postseason dog tag that's attached to Matthew Tkachuk after last year's playoff run, because he was obviously at the center of so many of those moments during last year's run, and he's kind of been like a role player. I mean, he's produced, but he's mainly been a role player. I would say like Barkov, Forsling, and Bobrovsky have been at the center of most of this Panthers run.
Yeah.
He has 1 point in this series again, and he's a -3. Like, he's been on the ice for 2 goals for, 5 against at 5-on-5. So, like, a negative impact in this series.
That's crazy to me. Barkov is just so by far their best player this entire postseason that, I feel bad that Bob had to have the course corrected and the conversation corrected the way that he did in Game 4. But man, it's been Barkov and basically whoever's playing with like Evan Rodriguez, just like going off in Game 2.
It's the Barkov line. Like, it's not just Barkov. That's how Barkov and his impact kind of materializes both in the regular season and in the playoffs. It's the Barkov line, not Alexander Barkov.
So I love him so much, and I appreciate you doing that, because this is something that we also did with the last Barkov, which was Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah.
Our friend Adam Jones, I think, was the only one who was loudly beating the drum of like, we're aware he's playing with Brad Marchand, right? Like, we're aware that the best two-way player in the league is playing with like
one of the best two-way players.
I don't
in the
know,
league.
a top like 5 two-way wing in the league, and just like somebody who's amazing at retrieving faceoffs. Unbelievable. Yeah. Do you think that if you're the Panthers and Paul Maurice, you start to get a little knoblocky on your line? Or do you say it's one game and we showed strongly enough from game 1 to 2 that we can just tighten up and adjust more our play style than having to shake the whole thing up?
Yeah, I would say it's the latter. I don't think you want to rock the boat too much if you're Paul Maurice. I don't think that you want to instill any sort of fear. Like, I don't think you want fear to come off of you at all. And I don't know if necessarily that means sticking with the exact same lineup, but I wouldn't rock the boat too much. Do you have any remaining thoughts from Game 4 or observations? Because I have a few. And,
Okay.
a few of them are stat-based. So if you want me to start, I can.
Well, I mean, I'll just volunteer. I look, as you could see, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. I look real good today. I'm wearing the Leon Draisaitl Stanley Cup jersey.
Oh, it looks so nice.
I
Patch
can't
is flawless up close.
Also, one thing that we haven't...
Did I get a little too big?
What?
Did
Did
I?
you get the jersey too big?
Yeah, is it a little too big?
I don't know.
A little too big.
I
One
mean,
thing
I
that
guess
for all the compliments that we've given the Edmonton Oilers throughout the course of this season, and the list is endless,
I know where this is going.
we've never mentioned that they are one of the few teams in the league that does not have a sponsor patch on the jersey.
Is that where you thought he was going?
Well, we did
That's
talk
where I
about
thought
it a
you were
little
going.
bit because we talked about it when the series started. Because
True.
Florida's patch has to be on the other side because of their sponsor patch, and it looks real weird.
I think
especially with
we
a letter.
mainly criticized the idea of sponsor patches, and we didn't give credit to the Oilers.
Yeah,
because
that
the
is true.
Oilers could make so much fucking money. You know how much fucking money they would make if, like, I guarantee with how popular that team is in Edmonton, there would be a massive, massive cash haul.
Popeyes patch
for
on it
it.
would look crazy.
Do you know?
Popeyes patch would look great.
Oh my
Do
God.
you know, by the way, I'm going to do a little reporting from Edmonton. When they talk about money in Edmonton, are you aware that they don't say money? They don't say that guy's rich.
Say he's liquid.
Nope. Better. Sean, you're going to be
Wealthy.
so fucking happy when you hear how they describe people who have a lot of money. They'll say he's got a lot of oil money because
No,
that's
they
how
don't.
people up there have money,
Really?
from oil. Yeah. They'll be like, oh, well,
That's
that
literally
that,
what
that,
Ambassador Greece just said. They don't need it. They have oil money.
Yes,
Yeah.
there
I
is
mean, that
so
makes sense. That's like Texas. Parts of Texas is like, oh, you could tell they're rich because they're wearing a cowboy hat and Gucci boots. That's oil money.
I found myself in a situation. I'm going to zoom out and be very, very vague here, but I found myself in a situation where I was talking to some people and there was oil money talk, and I had to like go like this to make my face be a little more normal because I was just smiling so much. There was pipeline talk.
Oh yeah, love
There
that.
was pipeline talk. I was like, oh my God, the Oilers are so fucking winning this series. I'm in Edmonton talking about the pipeline. This is absolute.
They say he's Hyman Rich.
Yes, yeah. They say this is Zach Hyman. But the no patch thing, you're right, is very beautiful. I also got to tip my cap. I think Will agree. Who is it that doesn't like the Panthers jersey here?
Me.
Doesn't?
Okay, yeah, we like it. You don't hate it, right?
Yeah, I think it's inoffensive, but it's not amazing.
I was talking to a dude in the airport who was wearing, I want to say, a Stanley Cup Carter Verhaeghe jersey. I was wearing my Western Conference champs tee. He was wearing his jersey, and we were sizing each other up. We were going like this to each other, going like this to each other. I said, I said, well, yeah, why don't you SMD? I was just like really fighting words. We got to talking, and I was like, fuck if this isn't an absolutely gorgeous sweater. Wearability, Pete, if you saw that fucking thing, if
I've
Sean
seen
walked in here, well, yeah, you've never seen the jersey before. if Sean walked in here wearing a pristine, something about the red, something about the cup on it, just like I needed a second.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate it. I don't like it. I do like the font. The font is good.
Okay.
So the font and the lettering, I'm a fan of. Otherwise, I can take it or leave it.
Last plane story before we get back to game 4. I was sitting on the plane. The person in front of me does not recline. The person diagonally from me reclines. And there is, Sean, how tall are you?
6'2".
Yeah, there's a kid next to me who's like probably got like a Sean body.
Okay.
And the person in front of him reclines. When the flight
Asshole behavior.
This is the best. When the flight attendant's coming down, asking if we need drinks or anything, he says, and he's such a, you can tell he's a harmless kid. He's like, this is so weird. Would you be able to ask the person in front of me if they could push their seat back up? And she was like, no, like we're actually not allowed to do that. I could get you a new seat though, because there is a seat up front there. And I was like, yeah, do I like switch seats or something? And he was like, I don't want anything that I don't deserve. I just kind of, he didn't say it in this many words, but he was like, I'm not taking a new seat from somebody, or I'm not taking somebody else's seat. So I took a risk, took out my phone, hopped in the notes app, wrote in huge font. It's on my phone. We can even show it. I wrote in huge font.
There's one of two ways that this can go, and one of them I'm interested in. I'm very intrigued by this story.
Sean, can you give me the...
Yeah.
Can't read it.
We're not able to zoom.
me
And
see.
the white.
Reclining equals bad behavior.
Exclamation point.
Okay.
And
That's not where I thought it was
Who
going. I
did
thought
you
DJ
show
was
that
going to
to?
tell a story in which he was the hero of the story.
Well,
and-
that's what I, yeah.
No. So that's the thing. There was no, he wasn't going to take another seat. There was no heroes to be done. So I showed him, I just wrote reclining equals bad behavior. And then he took out his notes app and wrote like, he wrote, knees are killing me, sad face.
Oh no.
And I was like, damn.
I relate to this kid so hard. Although I would say I would much rather I would ask if there were other seats before I asked a flight attendant to ask somebody to move their seat up, because it's obvious who that's coming from.
Oh yeah.
Like,
But also,
Yeah, like you may as well ask rather than
Yeah.
having
but also
the
you're
flight
making an
attendant ask.
impact on society. You're changing that. You're making that person realize, because I think it's entirely possible somehow people recline their seats out of ignorance, not out of,
I don't know.
not out of selfishness.
If a seat reclines, it is meant to be reclined. And so I think that there's got to be I also think there's some responsibility on the airlines to
I agree with
give
that.
us enough room that reclining is not like a on us.
But
as
I think the
assholes.
reclining option is for if you're a tall person, or if you're a big person, or if there is just any
don't
sort
ever
of
do it.
physical reason for you to need to do it. And honestly, if there's a tall person in front of me and they recline and they're like, I would just be effortlessly less encumbered by being reclined, I'm on board with that.
Those
I'll be
things
like, I'll probably still be as uncomfortable with you reclining in my space as you are even reclining a little bit, because you're just a fucking bigger person than the rest of us. So I'll take that. But yeah, this person and I, the rest of the flight, every now and then just pop up the notes app, send a little message to each other. Loved them. With like 5 minutes left on the flight, the person pushed their seat back up. He takes out his phone, writes, only took 2 hours. I wrote, look at God.
That's not the funniest story involving a
Plane this
notes
post-
app and a person on a plane.
What's
There's a famous meme of a person with a notes app on their phone and just giant letters, and it's a slur, and they're holding it up next to a sleeping person who I assume is their friend on a plane. It's a very funny picture.
I just need to say, reclining your seat under any circumstances is asshole behavior. They don't recline enough for it to be that much of a change, A. And B, even if you can do it, elevators go up one floor. It doesn't mean you're not an asshole for taking the elevator up one floor. Like, it's the
Tell
same
'em.
thing to me. That's
Cook their ass.
happened to me the other day, and it pissed me off every time. You're able-bodied and you got nothing in your hands, get on the goddamn stairs. It's one floor.
Chat very into this conversation, by the way.
The one thing that I wanted to point out, I guess I have a couple things that I want to point out remaining from Game 4. Very, very funny. Ryan Nugent Hopkins stat line. Had a goal in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Great goal. Nice. Had
Not a great goal, by the way.
Not a great goal,
Yeah.
but I'm going to give it to him.
Leon Dry, he's a dry saddle merchant.
Yes. 1 goal in the game. 17 minutes and 56 seconds of ice time. 8-1 scoreline. -1.
That's crazy.
How does that even fucking happen?
Only
Well, 'cause
minus,
it was he scored on the 5-on-3.
Well, no, I mean, I know how it happens, but like, how the fuck does that even happen?
Only minus player on the Edmonton Oilers, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, arguably their best defensive forward.
Darnell Nurse looking at him being like, how's it feel?
That's fucking hilarious.
Man, people were psyched with Darnell Nurse. I was so happy for Darnell Nurse. And obviously, he's
awesome.
not there to score, but even if that's a reminder, and yeah, it was like from McDavid, but even if that's just a reminder, he's like, you know who's like okay at hockey? Me. It would go a long way. Oh, you know what? I'll give you off of Game 4, and this does shift it a little more back to Game 5. If the Panthers want to win Game 5, they need to get set up in the offensive zone, because now the shoe is on the other foot with the rush opportunities.
Oh my
up.
God.
Nothing.
It's so many rush opportunities for the Oilers in Game 4.
Right, but I'm saying the Panthers are getting nothing off that. Like the
yeah.
Oilers are giving the Panthers absolutely nothing off the rush. So now they got to go back to fucking basics. Get in the offensive zone, get set up. Was talking to Petey a little bit about this. Do almost like the Carolina Hurricanes thing. Start hammering your points, because that was the only way they were getting shots through in Game 4 anyway. But yeah, my like number one Panthers, what do you got to do? You don't have to fucking slap around Connor McDavid or do anything. Like, you have to treat the offensive zone as a sacred fucking place, knowing that with the way that the Oilers are playing right now, and it could change, of course, we love our Oilers, you are not getting anything off the rush. So get in the offensive zone, do what you did against the Rangers and against Boston, get pucks on net from the point, jump on those rebounds, and stay a little while. Because you are not going, when you're defending, you are not flying the other way.
I don't know what the end number of rush opportunities was for the Oilers in Game 4, but my God, it had to be like at least a dozen.
It was constant.
Constant.
I jumped into the live stream with you, and you were talking about something like someone having rush opportunities. And obviously, I was like a full minute ahead of you. And as you were saying it, I was like, they're doing it again. Yeah. Like Holloway and Draisaitl are doing this right now. And I believe they ended up scoring on it. I forget who got that goal, but it was the Holloway, Draisaitl, and whomever else. But man, rush opportunities. This was like game one-ish in the sense that one team was doing whatever they wanted and the other team was like, I might as well go fuck myself.
I mean, that was game 2, but it was just the opposite as well.
That is true. There's been three, dare I say, okay, we'll say there's been 3 dominant games.
Lopsided.
But all 4 games, one team has clearly been better than the other. But game 3, I kind of pushed back on. And I know the sentiment is that the Oilers kind of took it to them in game 3. We've seen the Oilers take it to them.
I don't think that was my takeaway from game 3. My takeaway was that it was an evenly matched game that the Oilers lost in a 7-minute span.
That's what I thought as well. So the Oilers obviously were better in the first and third periods, but they fucking lost the first period. They won the third period, sure,
They were tied after 1, I believe.
No, one was they gave up. So they had a good score, a couple of good scoring chances from Connor Brown in the first period, but they gave up one. They gave up a goal at the end of the first period.
We're talking about game 4?
Game 3. And then Warren Fogle scored a few minutes into the second. That's probably what you're thinking of.
Okay.
Florida was up 1-0 after 1.
Okay.
And then Warren Fogle.
I thought it was 1-1 after 1, but I know
it's because when I switched locations, I was like,
you would have a better recollection of that game 3.
I was like, let's do it. Let's have a better period. And then fucking Warren Fogle right in my fucking face. And I was like,
and then they scored. And then they scored immediately after that.
Sam Reinhart scored near the end of the first, and then Warren Fogle scored less than 2 minutes into the second.
Hell yeah.
My other note from game 4 is we were talking about yesterday, by the way, there's a mini episode of Unscheduled Chaos that we did yesterday just because we had some really, really pressing game 4 thoughts we wanted to get out of us. It's on YouTube. It's on the Spotify feed, so go check that out if you haven't listened.
I have to give a quick note on that.
Yeah.
That's one of our best episodes ever. It's crazy. Given that it was a thing that was just us remote and we barely got to talk to Sean, that was like one of our best, most concentrated, hey, we each have a million thoughts, let's dump them out, but we still had grab ass. It was a lot of fun. Sean turned it around so fucking quick. It was
all right.
great.
Shout out to you for giving us flowers. One of the things that we did bring up was Stu Skinner's game on Saturday in game 4. And kind of how it flew under the radar just because of the final score line. It was 8-1. You don't really pay too much attention to what your goaltender did. But we were talking about like the Panthers easily could have had 3-4 goals on the board. And at the time, didn't know the goal saved above expected number. It ended up being 2.38. I saw that from Megan Chayka. She's been very good about putting that stuff out during the Stanley Cup Final. That means that Stu Skinner now has 3 of the top 10 goalie performances of this entire postseason by goal save above expected, which is the same number as Sergei Bobrovsky. Sergei Bobrovsky has 3 of the top 9. Stu Skinner has 3 of the top 10. We also know that Stu Skinner has probably like 3 of the worst of this entire postseason. That's kind of the book on Stu Skinner. But like, are people's perceptions of Stu Skinner being changed by what we've seen in these playoffs and specifically over these last few rounds? Because I think the answer should be yes.
You asked that question better than anybody else would have, because other people would have said, are people's perceptions of Stu Skinner right? Are they wrong? That is such a better question. Are they being changed? Because we know how dug in people are on Stu Skinner. And I was going to say it's either one side or the other, but typically when people dig in on Stu Skinner, it isn't, hey, I would love to talk about how Stu Skinner is really good. It's more the Tony Maz thing where like, hey, I saw this horrible game he had, which is a real thing. Mm-hmm. He has horrible games. Therefore, he sucks and blows. When we all know as realists, I'm totally unbiased, that he is, what would we call Stu Skinner? A very good, I would call him a very good goalie, knowing that I got to make a face when I say it, because the only reason he's not an awesome goalie is because he's an asshole a bunch of the time, and that takes him from awesome to very good, or would you say that takes him from very good to good?
I would say it takes him from very good to good. I think that he's a very volatile goalie.
He's the most volatile goalie in the league, I would say. And this is in a series in which he's playing Sergei Bobrovsky, and we're like, he's a super volatile goalie, the guy who isn't Sergei Bobrovsky. Crazy. But I would hope that they're changing. I would hope that especially they're changing after game 4.
But I would have hoped that they changed after the regular season. Like a lot of the stuff that we saw, including the Tony Maz stuff, just had the stink of, well, you don't watch this guy enough. When you talk about Stu Skinner, there has to be nuance because, yes, he sucks sometimes. He absolutely sucks sometimes. But for a large portion of this season, he was very good. Good to very good. I think that I'm more confident in getting that guy than I am in getting the very bad Stu.
Do you feel like he's less of an asshole now than you?
I already know the answer to that.
So okay. So I was gonna say then, like you did a year ago.
Well,
today.
yeah, because especially when you're talking about a year ago, and you were talking about like playoff Stu. Playoff Stu was defined by being an asshole, and I think when that came up during the Vancouver series of this postseason, you were like, "Oh shit! Like maybe this is just." Kind of who Stu is. He's a good regular season goalie, and maybe he's kind of just got shit for brains in the postseason.
Yeah.
And now I think that theory has been debunked, and he can be a very good to very good postseason goalie. I don't know if you can ever expect him to be a great postseason goalie, but he can be a good to very good postseason goalie.
We're living in the Stewisance, Sean.
Yeah, just kidding. I mean, to the original question, I feel like people's opinions on him probably aren't changing that much just because he hasn't been the story at any point. Like,
but that should be what changes the opinion.
I agree with you 100%. Like opinions people should change, but I just feel like ultimately they're going to lose the series, and people are going to look back on it and just like not think of Stu and just kind of revert back to their old opinions on Stu. I don't think that's fair. I think Stu is a good goalie, obviously, but I just feel like the game that he was best, the game where we asked him to like make a couple of saves and steal things, was the game that they ended up scoring 8 goals, and his performance ultimately, it was a difference maker, but like is not the story of that game. And so I just feel like people's opinions aren't going to change on him as much as they should, just because he hasn't been the focus.
Yeah,
knock on as much wood as possible. If the Oilers win game 5, he's probably going to be over 900 on the postseason, which is insane given that he had 2 games, not quite like the one that Bob had, but like 2 games that will tank an entire regular season, let alone a postseason. If he gets back to 900, I hope people, if they ever glance at the stats, will be like, wait, so did he, dare I say, go on some sort of like actual run? And I don't know that he's on a run. I just know that he is very settled in, that there were moments such as in game 3, the turnover, where you're yelling at him and you hate him for a second, but he not only has not been the problem, but he's been good. I wonder, is he already, and it's so unfair, 2 seasons into his career, does he have the kind of thing that like a Tuukka Rask had, where it was, until you win the Stanley Cup, we've made up our mind about how you are mentally as a player, and we're going to ascribe all these things that are unfair to you.
I think it's very separate from Tuukka, because Tuukka was regarded as one of the best goalies in the league and like won a Vezina, and that was supposed to be like a strength of the Bruins, and it often was. But like when you're considered to be one of your team's biggest strengths, and like you have kind of the moments that Tuukka had, that's where they were like, okay, he can't get it done in the big moments. I don't think that Stu is considered by many to be a strength of the Oilers, to be a great goaltender. And that's why I say, like, when he's not the story, like with what Sean said, that's a credit. Like, that's a good thing for Stu Skinner, because when he is the story, it's typically the negative. He's never really the story for being the positive, for better or for worse.
He's also a goalie that is a bell cow in a time of tandems, right? Like I know that he was supposed to be in a tandem. It was supposed to be him and Jack Campbell.
Pickard was good for a good part of this year.
They
didn't use him a lot.
I had no problem with Pickard, but like that's another element of it, that he is the guy. There were definitely times this year during the regular season though that I was like, oh, Stu Skinner is the Oilers' like 5th best player, where that's wrong. But you're able to wrap your head around it because he was going on such a good run. Sean?
It's just funny to me that you said a time of tandems because while I don't think that's necessarily untrue, you think about it, like all 4 teams that made it to the conference finals are all bell cow, like they're teams with bell cow goalies.
Yeah.
Iggy makes a good point. Did Stu get some of the failure of Campbell pushed onto him? I think that is absolutely true, and we've never talked about it. Like, you look at the Oilers, like how they started this season goaltending-wise and how it was kind of tanking their season, and you look at their collective team save percentage, and it's easy to forget when you're towards the end of the season that Stu wasn't the guy who was getting shelled early on in a lot of cases. Like, a lot of that didn't fall on him. And, I think that it's easy to forget that, like, he hasn't been their guy for the entire season.
I think there is a little stink of just being an Oilers goalie.
That's very true as well. Yeah, that's very
Oilers
true. The Oilers never have the goalie, and Stu suddenly is the guy that they're turning to. And, you're waiting for a reason to claim that overarching thing and narrative is correct.
I mean, he had a horrible, we'll say, first.
Oh, he definitely didn't have a good start to the season.
Month-ish of the season, but
they also weren't playing defense.
You know who had a bad first month of the season?
The Oilers.
Edmonton Oilers. They weren't scoring goals. They were giving up a million goals. It was an absolute mess. It was a nightmare. But I've made this point a couple of times about Ken Holland. Like, sneaky, and I don't know if it's just because there weren't moves there, but the way that he ended up handling the goaltending, where we were doing daily episodes about what is the panic buy going to be from the Oilers? Who are they going to, how many like Leon Draisaitl's are they going to give Boston for Linus Ullmark right now? Like, what are they, how badly through the nose are they going to spend to get a really good goaltender? And he was like, just going to send you
like our guy.
Down. Yeah, I like Stu. You know what? I think just Stu's the guy, and we'll see what Calvin Pickard, who we last saw when he was earning the Colorado Avalanche, the 4th overall pick, only because they lost the lottery. We'll just make him the backup goaltender. They tried it out, and it worked. I don't know, though. Like, the long answer to the question, I don't think people's minds will change on him just because it's a postseason in which he was benched. I think that is so unfair, and I think that is you are not watching the games, because especially late in that Dallas series, he was just as big a part as why Edmonton advanced out of the Western Conference as anybody else. But I think that with Stu Skinner, people will be big picture until he wins a cup or until he, I don't know, allows 0 or 1 goals until the end of this postseason, win or lose.
Yeah,
which is very unfair because he's been good, and he was awesome in Game 4. Both Knobloch and McDavid talked about it. They're like, it was 2-1, and we gave up an odd man rush, and Stu made the save. Like, that's
the save on Verhaeghe.
Yeah,
the save on Verhaeghe was huge.
That's a 2-2 game right there, and it's you blew a 2-0 lead.
Yeah.
Bam. And Panthers win Stanley Cup.
Yeah. That was a huge save. Where do we stand on Bobrovsky now? And you know that you mentioned him kind of falling out of the run for Conn Smythe, but like, say the Panthers win the Stanley Cup in Game 5, and it's like a 4-3, 5-4 game where Bobrovsky's not great or anything. Will the takeaway be that, like, Bobrovsky wasn't that good in the series, or like, will he still get a ton of credit? Because, yeah, he's fallen off a little bit, and he certainly wasn't good in Game 4, but he is probably responsible for like 1.5 wins in this series. Certainly for Game 1,
yeah.
And the save at the end of Game 3 was fucking huge. And no matter what happens from this point on, like, Bobrovsky still deserves a lot of credit. And that's coming from me, a guy who was trying to talk people out of, like, giving him so much credit for the way that the first 3 games went.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if people will say, like, he wasn't that good. He was hot and cold. He was incredible. Like, if you win your team 1 game in the Stanley Cup Final, that is the stuff of legend.
And Stu still hasn't done
He
that.
stole a game in game one, and that is an overused thing. Every number, everything, you could watch that game a million times. There's no other conclusion you can draw than that goalie made every fucking save he needed to. And he still, by the way, I just looked at this and I'm stunned by this. He still is by quite a bit the better goaltender in this series, which is not what my eyes have told me, but what the fuck do I know?
I mean,
Panthers have just scored more goals, so
yeah, and game 2 is such a weird situation because like he let up probably the worst goal of the series in game 2, other than the giveaway from Stu.
Yeah,
like the at-home goal on Bobrovsky in game 2 is probably the worst goal of the series that a goaltender is allowed. But it was like the only time that he was challenged.
Yeah.
Or one of 2 times he was challenged in game 2. So it's hard to like say what kind of game Bobrovsky had in game 2. But game 1, he was certainly better. Game 3, probably better. So I don't know. Maybe a split. I don't know. Like he's the only goalie that's been chased in this series.
We got to hit an ad read in a second, but he's still, none of us are voting. He's still not your Conn Smythe.
No, it's either Barkov or it's McDavid, and we can get into the McDavid.
Yeah, it's Barkov or McDavid for me.
Yeah.
How about you, Sean?
No, I would say the same thing. I just feel like ultimately when this series is over, I mean, we still don't know how it's going to end, but say it ends in game 5, like you were saying, 4-3, whatever. Like, I feel like ultimately it's just going to be a lot of like legacy talk for Bob, but the narrative of the series itself is not going to necessarily be that like he won them the series. It's going to be a lot more focused on the stuff that people have been talking about all series, which is the Stars kind of going quiet, Barkov being awesome.
Wait, so you think that like if he had continued like where we were with Bob after game 3, that it would have like had a material impact on his legacy?
No, like I mean, I feel like when it's all said and done, it's going to be like Bob is one of, I don't want to say greatest goalies of all time, but like he's great goalie in his career. He got a cup, got a couple of Vezinas, but when it gets down to like the actual series, people are not going to really be focusing much on Bob when it's all said and done. It's going to be more.
I think that game
skaters.
1 will be considered some real legacy shit.
Yeah,
I think that'll be a real.
I do think
headline.
that if it had ended at 4 and Bobrovsky was like one of the main storylines, it would have really pushed for his legacy, like overall. Like, damn, he was dominant in a Stanley Cup Final.
Who knows? What if he shuts him out in game 5?
Yeah,
then
I mean,
people are probably back to giving him. I was going to say people are back to giving him Conn Smythe votes, but I think the Bob Conn Smythe stuff
Lost a lot of steam.
is coming from people who aren't voting for Conn Smythe. My read from talking to hockey writers, and they're the ones that vote on it, is McDavid or Barkov, with more of a leaning towards McDavid than I expected. But we'll talk about that.
You're in Edmonton too, talking a lot of Oilers writers.
No. I mean, I honestly didn't talk to any Oilers writers. I was only talking to. What's that?
You're not really an Oilers writer guy. You're an Oilers TV guy.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't talking to like Oilers broadcasters. When you go to the Stanley Cup Final, you're just around a bunch of national people, and I mean, I guess national people might lean McDavid as well. But yeah, the sense just from talking to people was not like, wow, Bob's getting this. Or some people were saying, yeah, I think I lean Bob slightly over Barkov right now. And I was trying to talk them out of it. I was like, yo, Bob is their third best player, if that.
I think after game 2, like, I understand it because he won them one of the 2 games. But I think after game 3, it started becoming clearly more Barkov. And then after game 4,
I felt the opposite. Like, I felt like after game 3, when he made the save late in game 3, I was like, now I can understand it. Like, he stole game 1. Game 2, he didn't really fucking matter. Game 3, that save on McLeod.
He saved game 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that
I
really
think
could have shifted things.
As the series went along, it became more of like, damn, none of the Oilers stars were doing anything. And then Barkov was getting credit for that. So I don't think it necessarily was more of like people were backing off of Bob. It was more they were shifting towards Barkov.
We're deep enough into it now. Let's just spend a couple more minutes on it. What would your reaction be to McDavid potentially winning it? And what needs to happen the rest of the way for him to win it?
what needs to happen the rest of the way? Like,
say McDavid scores a hat trick, has 4 points in a 7-4 Game 5 loss, and he finishes with, I don't know the math there, but what would it be? 42. He has 42 points in the postseason, which would be, I think, 4th all time. He's currently tied for 5th all time, I believe, something like that. That is a historic postseason, and then at least he'd have like 9 or 10 goals.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he's going to be hurt the longer this series goes. You know, like his chances are only going to improve, I feel like. But I already kind of like his chances because he got the record.
Yeah.
And because he finally had that that material impact legacy kind of game in, I guess I wouldn't call it a legacy game, but he had a dominant game in the Stanley Cup Final.
What would it do though for narrative shit with Connor McDavid? Because they'd be that I feel would further cement idiots who are like, but he never won anything. They give him he's a Conn Smythe winner who didn't even win the cup. Classic McDavid.
I mean,
points, blah, blah.
But like
somebody would fucking say that. And I don't know who they are, but it's not good behavior.
It's not good behavior, but like that would be the biggest, like, you don't know what you're fucking talking about thing of all time, because it's the argument is that like the people that bring up McDavid not winning anything say that he chokes in the playoffs, and him winning a Conn Smythe despite not winning, becoming like the first skater in how many godforsaken years that has not been on a winning team. The easy response is just, he won fucking Conn Smythe on a losing team, and as a skater, that never happens for anybody. That's how good he was during that playoff
didn't win
run.
thing drives me crazy. And whenever people would like get super excited about certain, for example, like Patriots receivers in the post, like Julian Edelman, one of the greatest postseason receiver of his generation. And I was like, you know who's better? Larry Fitzgerald, who's just a fucking better player and just wasn't on teams that won. But when he was in the postseason, he acted like Larry Fitzgerald and was awesome and was incredible. Connor McDavid goes from dominating the regular season to dominating the postseason. And no, he doesn't win the President's Trophy every year either.
While I will say that what you're saying is correct, what I think that Connor McDavid kind of needs in order to foolproof this argument could use like 2 or 3 more points in the series, because I already know the argument that a lot of people will have is, well, he got 12 of his points in the first round against the Kings. Mm-hmm. And it's true. He had 12 points in the first round in 5 games against the Kings. 12 points, 9 points against Vancouver, 10 points against Dallas, 7 points in 4 games against Florida. If he gets that 7 points up to like 9 or 10, you're throwing the argument of like, well, he front loaded his points kind of out the window.
And it's funny because what would you say was McDavid's most impressive series thus far?
Dallas.
How it began and how it ended. Oh my God. And he had but 6 points, right? Is that what?
No, he had 10 points against Dallas.
I'm misreading the way you put it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
but
10
but
points,
still,
3 goals. Like that's the only series in which he scored more than 1 goal so far. But that was like his signature moment of the playoffs.
Dominant, not the most points per game, or I would say most dominant, but not the most points per game, not the most gaudy stats. He's just an incredible player. Also incredible is Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It's the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100x your cash. We are always doing live streams for these Cup Final games. Don't forget, we will do one tomorrow. It will be presented by Prize Picks, and on there, we will be trying to 10x, maybe 19x. How did you do last game?
I didn't because Connor McDavid didn't get his ice time. I did more on ice time for Connor McDavid. I was not anticipating an 8-1 scoreline, and I got boned by picking more on the ice time.
The conversation we had leading up to it was kind of funny in hindsight, because we were like, that seems easy. Unless they blow him out, which that's probably not going to happen.
I'll tell you what, this time of year too, a lot of guys are banged up. A lot of guys are trying to play through injuries. Well, if anything happens to one of your players, Prize Picks offers injury insurance so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured this playoff season. If you have a player who exits the game, and let's say we were watching a basketball game like tonight, NBA Finals. Say you got someone who exits the game in the first half, doesn't return for the second, Prize Picks will have your back and not count that as a loss. The personal experience part of this read could just be 5 hours because you've seen us sit around hammering Prize Picks, doing demons, doing goblins. We're going to have something up our sleeve for tomorrow night's game. Very exciting stuff. Download the app today and use code WhatChaos for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code WhatChaos for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
It's been a while since we've had Jude Bellingham reference, but he is cooking in the Euros.
Yeah, Euros going well?
Yeah.
Nice.
Forza Italia, baby.
Cone Zone, by the way, with a nice little numbers crunch in the chat. 1976 Flyers, Reggie Leach, only skater to ever win the Conn Smythe while losing in the Stanley Cup Final. So, like, that would be a huge piece to McDavid's legacy if he did hold that. Like, I don't think that would be ammunition against him. It would be ammunition for the people countering the haters.
It would be ammunition against the Oilers. Like, I love the idea of Connor McDavid getting that trophy, and I obviously want him to win the cup more than anything. But I just know, and maybe it's because I don't have a bad heart, there's gonna be takes. There's gonna be Sean. Like, dude, am I crazy, Sean?
No, I mean, there's definitely gonna be takes. I mean, I think people in the chat were saying that just the picture of him is gonna be cursed, and like I agree with that. The thing about it,
that might be the worst thing for his legacy.
Like Connor McDavid will not want that award.
Oh no!
Like, so it's just like I get that. Like ultimately, it doesn't matter. You're supposed to give it to the best player. But like that part of it's weird to me. I feel like we're not that far removed from talking about him and the star. Like, in this series, we were talking about this guy deserves the Conn Smythe because he is shutting down Connor McDavid. And now we're talking about Connor McDavid winning the Conn Smythe. That just is wild to me. I think he needs to like start scoring goals if he's going to win it without winning the cup. Like, I just hate the idea of giving it to a loser. Like, how are you that valuable if you didn't win the cup? That's just weird to me.
Because it's a playoff. It's a playoff award. That's the only thing for me, and that's why I push back against Bobrovsky, despite him being a really important part of like the 2 of the 3 games to start the series. My bigger argument was like, well, that's a recency bias take. Barkov has been the most important and most valuable player to the Panthers for this entire playoff run. So like you can lose in a cup final while still being the best player over the course of an entire playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, I get all of that, but also, like, we don't live in a world in which awards get given for what they're actually supposed to be.
Correct.
So
that's very true.
Like, A, I don't like giving it to a loser, and B, it's just like I said, I feel like we were having talks about him not being that good in these playoffs like a few days ago. So it's just wild to me how much it has switched. Peter, I don't think he necessarily undeserves it. Doesn't deserve it, though.
We got another read?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
It's a smooth sack summer, boys.
Oh,
I'll just say, by the way,
sack summer.
It is a smooth sack summer.
I way overslept today. I got in at 2 a.m. I was flying, so I was on drugs. And just the fact that we're pulling off a show today, mazel tov, boys.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And we pulled off a show yesterday, too. So
yesterday was way easier to do than today.
This show could suck. If it sucks, well, we already gave you a freebie. You can't really criticize.
No, I think yesterday's show was awesome. I think that today's show, it sucks that grab ass is such like a fucking cheat code. No, it's a cheat code to fucking unlock us and the chat. But once we get a little spray of it, then our hockey talk after is so much better.
Sean alluded to it a few minutes ago. Buddy, it's smooth sack summer. You know what that means. Those dunes below the belt, they're smooth. No,
I don't like how much eye contact you were making with me while you did that. But
if that didn't give it away, our other presenting sponsor today, not presenting sponsor, just sponsor, is Manscaped. Ladies and gentlemen, smooth sack summer officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed from your pubes to your bum. Jesus. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, including us. because we love the Lawnmower 5.0. We love the Performance Package 5.0. All of their products, incredible. They only get better with each release. And we're big Manscaped boys. So if you want to join us, go to Manscaped and get this exclusive offer. 20% off and free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use promo code WhatChaos. Summertime and the trimming's easy at manscaped.com using promo code WhatChaos.
Oh, we got a super chat.
Whoa.
From Mr. Burns.
So glad you could experience Edmonton after a win, DJ. If you were able to pick up a non-top 3 player on the Oilers to win Conn Smythe, who are you picking? I misread that, but you know what he meant. He said, or they, I'm sorry, saying, who wins it if not one of, let's say, Draisaitl, McDavid, or who's your third? Bouchard?
Hyman?
Hyman. I don't know if they meant like top 3. Yeah. I feel like in terms of like players that would win Conn Smythe.
Conn Smythe, yeah, like Hyman has 16. It was 16 goals, 14 goals.
He had 14 coming in.
So he's got 14.
Oh, he still has 14 because that Draisaitl one was changed to Nuge. I thought, Hyman would be the 3. So then he doesn't qualify here. The bet I placed was, the DFS I placed was Stu Skinner. What if Stu Skinner doesn't allow a goal the rest of the postseason?
He's still not going to win Conn Smythe.
If Stu Skinner shuts them out in games 5, 6, and 7?
No, it's McDavid's going to win Conn Smythe.
Yeah.
The Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup, and Connor McDavid will.
Yeah, that would be the funniest thing in the world, though. If we go from
a 0% chance,
there's not a 0% chance.
0% chance. We're talking about Connor McDavid right now potentially winning the Conn Smythe if the Oilers lose the Stanley Cup. If the Oilers win the Stanley Cup, Connor McDavid is going to win Conn Smythe.
On 3 straight shutouts?
Still, it's going to be that people are going to use
0%.
I like the argument.
I would lean McDavid, but like no.
I would say
0% chance.
Nothing's impossible. I'd say it's pretty low, but I mean, if they win 3 straight 1-0 shutouts,
and they put 75 shots on net, and
I don't think in the realm of, I don't see a path to the Oilers winning without Connor McDavid being as good as he's been.
I'll say a 1% chance. A 1% chance.
Nothing is impossible.
Also, the question was not McDavid, not Draisaitl, not
I know,
Bouchard.
But you were throwing out like, could Stu win if he pitches a shutout in the remaining 3 games? I would still say
the answer to that is
1% chance.
I mean, it obviously depends on what the shutout looks like, because if it's like
if that happens though,
Game 6 against the Stars where they won, but he had like 15 saves or whatever it was.
No, but he was great.
Yeah,
he was
Game
great
6
in that
awesome.
Game 6.
I might be confusing games, but like
Game 6 was the one the Stars dominated.
The Stars had like 35 shots.
Oh yeah,
because the Oilers had 10. And it was the largest margin of shot total in a clinching game.
But just in general, if there's a game where like the Oilers defense locks, if like they're winning games because the Oilers defense locks it down, he has a shutout, but it has 14 saves.
But if that happens,
credit for that,
then you have to redefine the Conn Smythe. It has to be the MVP of the Stanley Cup Final, because you completely throw in the trash the idea that it is a full playoff-wide MVP award.
Yeah, and again, I wouldn't think that he would win this, but you could say, well, he came up so big in the Dallas series where people didn't expect him to. He was awesome in the first round against the Kings. It was really just like the first half of the Vancouver series, he was ass. And the second half of the Vancouver series, he didn't really play because he lost his job because of how bad he was in the first half. But he ended up coming back at the end, and he was fine. Not amazing, but
I mean, getting back to kind of what I was talking about with McDavid and how I feel like the conversation has switched so much in this series. Like, I feel like people are definitely prisoners of the moment too. So like,
yeah,
if Stu had 3 straight shutouts, I think people would be talking about Stu.
Oh my God,
that would be the conversation.
The legacy talk would be outrageous. Did we get another super chat from somebody who said that they flew for 36 hours? Let's get this from A. Smith. I just flew 36 hours with 2 connections from Asia. Thanks for the great content. It has kept me entertained while waking up at 3 a.m. jet lagged. Boy, are your arms tired. 36 hours. No joke. I'll tell you what, it was a big trip for not being able to complain about flying, because I was going from like Boston to Ottawa to Edmonton. That is nothing compared to what some of these people were doing. My guy Connor from Australia, who said he had to miss game 2 because his travel from Australia to Edmonton was so long that he didn't get to see game 2. He landed and he was able to see parts of it in the airport, but
I don't know if I would make that sacrifice.
do you know where his connection was?
No.
And shout out Connor. I'm going to kind of expose you for being playfully anti-American. It was in LAX, and I love Los Angeles. LAX is one of the airports where when you arrive, you're like, what world am I in right now?
Yeah.
What are all the vibe is different, the people are different. Of
Been
course.
to LAX once, saw Bill Walton there.
Whoa!
RIP.
Hell yeah, great. That's amazing. But I imagine, and Connor told me this, that must be a miserable place to be an Edmonton Oilers fan, trying to watch a game while everyone's bopping around doing their LA thing. And I'm sure he was like, fucking Americans.
Oh, yeah.
Get me to Edmonton.
Trying to watch trying to find a sports bar in LA is a challenge.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say trying to watch sports at the airport can be a challenge because it's people that are like hogging bar space because they've just got layovers. And what was the game we were watching?
It was Columbus, Toronto.
Columbus, Toronto. Did we watch that on like iPads?
iPad or laptop, but yeah.
I had my,
we were at a bar, but not
I
watching it on
hope
the
we've
TV.
sufficiently taken pictures of the shit that we've done because I've had so much fucking fun.
We were watching on my iPad at the bar at the airport because they were playing an old rerun of a football game.
Yeah.
Like a Thursday night football game.
Wasn't the game turned off for a period? Like, didn't we not have it on for a while? And we were like, oh, they're scoring goals all of a sudden.
Oh, right,
They were down
right.
they were up like 5-2 or whatever going into the third. Or 5-0.
Shout out Ambassador to Greece, LAX, Wolfpack. Yes, my baby loves me. She's the best. She picks me up at LAX. What a song. We've talked enough about Game 4. We've looked ahead. Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to expand on that point, from the Connor point. Like, I don't know if I would be willing to do that. I don't know if my team was in the Stanley Cup Final. If I had an opportunity to go to a game, like if I lived far away from them, I don't know if I would sacrifice being able to watch one of the games to go to another one of the games.
Oh.
I sacrificed being able to watch Game 3 of the Celtics in the NBA Finals. I eventually got it on the radio, and I'll tell you what, I had a freaking blast listening on the radio. But that's a real, especially if it's like your team.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
and you've been waiting like
if
years
the Sabres
and years
were
and
in
years.
the cup. I don't know what I would do there.
I'll tell you what, though, Connor went to.
The situation is different because the Celtics have been in several finals while you're alive. Like you've had that experience before. If you're an Oilers fan, it's been a long time. It's been like 20 years since you were in the final.
Yeah,
missed game. Which game did they miss to see which game?
Missed Game 2 to see Games 3 and 4.
I think that's fine. I think I would do that.
In retrospect, it's definitely fine.
Well, yeah, for sure. I think in theory, if I was like planning something before a series started, the off chance that like if this were the Sabres that they were to sweep and I could be there, like assuming that I'm planning it before the series, I think you got to take that risk.
However, so in this hypothetical, there's also a nightmare situation with the game that you're missing where I don't know, where would you not want to be for that? And surrounded by whom? Like,
I don't think it matters. Like, you're missing
people who hate the Billie Eilish album.
Well, I will say if I was an Oilers fan, in hindsight, if I missed Game 2, I'd be like, okay,
right,
like
that's
way worth it. Yeah, but so I mean, it depends. But I think in theory, I would take the risk just so I could, because like to see my team in a Stanley Cup live
2 times is different. I don't know if I'd do it for like to go to one game. I thought he only went to the one.
Yeah.
To go to both games and miss one game, maybe I'd do it.
I'll say I would not I would not trade being at Game 4 for anything. That was a top sports event of my life, and I mostly watched that game by myself. Game 3, I was among friends, but wasn't feeling so friendly until I mean the live stream for the third period of Game 3 was a freaking party.
Oh yeah.
All of us kind of figuring out how to do a live stream where one person is a minute ahead, and the person who is a minute ahead is the one whose like life depends on what is happening. You two were just cool as a cucumber. I loved my favorite part was when who scored? It must have been McLeod. When McLeod scored to cut it to a 1-goal game, I don't know, you had like a no way. And I couldn't tell if it was like a holy fuck it's happening or a like, I don't know if DJ's just like fucking with us or what. But like it seemed like the wheels were turning where you were like, is this actually going to happen? And I was just screaming my head off.
I mean, there was not really a no way is DJ kind of fucking with us vibe after a certain point, because it was very obvious from everything going on around you that the Oilers had either scored a goal or they hadn't.
Yeah.
Like that arena, even when you were in the auxiliary press box,
they had
fucking like strobe lights going when the Oilers scored a goal or even got on the power play. So it was very obvious when good things happened to the Oilers.
Arena grade?
I mean, from a distance, that place looked amazing.
Yeah.
Hard A. Did you see, by the way, the thing I sent you of the sweatshirt that I almost got?
No, I don't think so.
I almost got a sweatshirt. It was like a very noisy Oilers sweatshirt. And I saw someone out and about on Saturday night wearing it. And I said, hey, I'm sorry. This is going to be weird, but I need to take a video panning up to show you wearing this. And it was Paul Bissonnette. You really didn't get this video?
I saw it.
Oh, okay.
I may not have just watched it then.
He cropped it. He cropped this sweatshirt like a crazy person, and he looked incredible in it.
I saw somebody say that slutty short summers and crop tops are in for guys this year. So,
ooh, not bad. I like that. Okay, let's do some need to win a meter for Game 5. Okay, I did not have time because I overslept today, famously. Jet lagged, whatever you want. But I quickly put together some crude graphics that if we turn this into any sort of social clip, we'll dress up and it will look better. But there's the deserve to win a meter. We're doing need to win a meter for Game 5 because we spoke yesterday about what happens to the Panthers if they lose Game 5 and let's say Bob gets chased again or he just has a bad game. What's their mindset going to be going back to Rogers for Game 6? Do they need to close this thing out? So we're going to go around the room and do need to win a meter for both teams, each of us. Peter, I'm going to start with you if that's okay. Let's take a look at your need to win a meter for Game 5. Give it to me.
Okay, I'm going to start with the Oilers because conceivably you would think the Oilers would be at 100%. Because
now, if they lose to people not watching or listening or alive, now if the Oilers lose, they'll be eliminated.
They will be eliminated. So their need to win is pretty high, but I put them at 90%. That 10% that you're like, where is it? It's already assigned to me thinking that they've lost. So I don't think that the 10% is really all that important because they don't need it. They've already lost in my mind. So that's where the 10% lives.
I don't like that behavior, but go on.
I understand it though.
Yeah. Like I've in my head, I've already assigned the loss to the Oilers. So I'm not going to be extremely disappointed if they lose. 45% for the Florida Panthers because I haven't fully arrived at like, well, if they don't win this one, could go either way. But I'm very close to that happening because if they lose the next one, then you're entering anything could happen territory. Then you're talking about one game at a time stuff.
Yeah.
Like right now, heading into Game 5, the Panthers still have a comfortable amount of runway. But that comfortable amount of runway really shortens because then you're looking at, oh man, well, they're going back to Edmonton. And then if they weren't going back to Edmonton for Game 6, I'd be like, they still got Game 6. But going back to Edmonton, I think things skew in the Oilers' favor. And then if the things skew in the Oilers' favor and they take Game 6, then you're talking about anything happening in a Game 7. So I would say, man, the Panthers are very close to needing to win this game.
And we know what the numbers are. We know what the track record is with Chris Knobloch and the Oilers under Chris Knobloch. They lose 3 in a row, then they start winning a bunch of games in a row. It would be unprecedented if the Oilers, knock on every bit of what I can find in my life, knock on the ESPN desk. That's what we're going to call it, the ESPN desk from now on.
Oh, I can't even believe I haven't mentioned this. How we should be calling the Oilers the Bag Boys. The Teabag Boys.
Oh,
the
love
Bag
that.
Boys.
I was gonna make the logo. I was gonna make the Oilers logo with a teabag in it, but famously I was flying in on drugs and I overslept and haven't been able to do anything. Edmonton vlog out at some point today, but I basically have to do the whole fucking thing now. I was planning on doing it at like 6 in the morning, but I was planning to do drugs. The Bag Boys.
Bag Boys. We love the Wendy's commercial.
What you gonna do?
You guys love the Wendy's commercial.
We love the Wendy's commercial.
Famously do not like
we
it.
love the Wendy's commercial. I think we all love the teabag.
I do like that.
The teabag analogy. I like calling the Oilers the Bag Boys. I think that you can't really start it until they win one more game. If they win Game 5, we're dubbing the Oilers the Bag Boys.
Sean, we like the commercial. So what do you think?
You guys like the commercial.
We like the commercial.
I like the Bag Boys name. I think there's a chance that the origins of it kind of get lost. But
that's perfect.
But yeah,
that's
I know,
my
exactly.
specialty.
Who cares? Yeah, that's why I like. Who cares? I think that's awesome.
And we have enough Oilers people that listen to the show that like this could be adopted, and everybody would be like,
Why the fuck
people
are
who
they calling
don't
it
listen to the
Bag
show be like, where did this come from and how did this get so popular?
Yeah, no, I like it. I think it's a fitting name.
Before we get to Sean's need to win a meter, I'm going to give Sean one more gift from Edmonton.
Oh, right. Yeah.
How about this,
You
Sean?
Did say
Check
that you
this
had
out.
one coming. I'm so intrigued. What this is. I can't.
You got Cheetos?
Actually, bunch of gifts. Sean, you know I had to do this to you.
Oh, fucking
right.
Best candy on the
I'm so
planet.
jealous.
Best candy on the planet.
You want one, Pete? I
Yeah.
got 2.
Yeah.
Can we do 1-1? Is that okay?
No, it's fine by me. I
Hell
wasn't expecting
yes.
anything.
Oh, Maynard's Fuzzy Peach Snacks.
They're the best candy on the planet.
Now, the other one that I got you, the best part is we're for sure going to break out a need to win a meter video and it's going to go crazy on YouTube and all this is still going to be in there. I think it's very important that when we do little clips from the show, we do let people know that like this is that fucking show though. Okay. This is from our friend Jay from the Nation, Oilers Nation, all the boys. They had this shirt. This is another I didn't have in my size thing. The options were XL and a very big XL or a medium. It was a little too small for me. This is one of my favorite t-shirts in the world and it is on Comfort Colors, which do you know Comfort Colors?
No, I don't know.
You know Comfort Colors.
Great
Best
t-shirts.
t-shirts.
Hell yeah.
You see what that says, brother?
Oh,
La Bamba
man.
mentality. That's so hard.
What a shirt.
That's
Sean
so
is such a
hard.
fucking winner from this trip. It makes me so happy.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Sean, actually, I'll do my need to win a meter because I think Sean's is the best. Pete is in heaven right now. Our
I'm not
vibes are so good.
going to speak. Don't ask me to speak for the rest of this podcast because I'm just going to be eating these
Best candy
Maynard's
of all
Fuzzy
time.
Peaches. They're
Amazing.
so good.
Also, am I crazy, Sean? This graphic this is like a placeholder graphic. I kind of like the aesthetic.
Yeah, it gets the job done. Absolutely.
Minimalistic.
It's very
minimalistic.
it's so clean. This is a clean graphic. All right, my need to win a meter is 100% for the Oilers because I believe they can and will win the Stanley Cup. So they got to win the game. If they don't, they're going to be eliminated. And then their chances of winning the Stanley Cup goes down to 0%. I'm going a very high 79% need to win for the Panthers in Game 5. The thoughts that will get in their head, even though I think the walls in their head are a little stronger than other teams, they're able to compartmentalize. You're not getting in here, Paul Dano voice or Eli voice. Get out, evil spirit. That flight, and Connor McDavid said it. He was like, we got to go to Florida. You know what quote I'm talking about?
Gotta drag them back to Alberta.
Hardest fucking quote. You see that?
No.
He said, we got to go do some business in Florida and then drag them back to Alberta.
Didn't even say Edmonton. Alberta.
Yes. Yeah,
I like
your
how
ass
that
is
hits
going to
so
Alberta.
Much, it's so much harder.
I told friends last week, they were like, hey, what are you doing whatever day? I was like, I'm going to be out of the country. Where are you going? Alberta. What's that? Edmonton. What's that? It's fucking Alberta.
Somewhat
Amazing.
Western Canada.
But I really do think, and for the reasons that we outlined yesterday, the bob of it all, maybe we don't match up as well as we thought after game 2. Maybe it returns to form a little bit of the game 1 where the Panthers say, you know what, fuck it. Let's just be aggressive. We're going to dictate the play. And then a bunch of chances go the other way, just like they did in game 4. If the Panthers drop game 5, the intrusive thoughts will be there, even if they are a strong-willed team, which I believe they are a very, very, very strong-willed team.
I do, and I still think your number is just significantly too high.
It was always going to be.
I know it was, and I'm just surprised that you had the Oilers at 100%. I expected you to find a way, find a way to make it like 0.
No, I put that option there. So when I was like, guys, do percentages for the Panthers and the Oilers. And Pete was like, just to clarify, is the Oilers part supposed to be a joke? Because obviously they need to win. And I was like, do with it what you want. And I figured, I was like, you'll both be creative and come up with something. But my true answer for that is 100%.
I would say my number is way lower because I don't think that the seed of doubt has been planted yet by the Oilers. I think that they need to win game 5 to plant the seed of doubt, and then they need to water it in game 6. And I think their chances of watering it in game 6 back home, once like the intrusive thoughts and the doubts that have been planted famously are in the heads of the Panthers. Like once they're planted, I don't think they're planted yet.
So I vividly have a memory of 2004. The Boston Red Sox fell behind 3-0 against the New York Yankees in the ALCS. And they won game 4. We'll see you later. Or no, I'm sorry. Dave Roberts steal, Ortiz, extra innings, blah, blah. After they'd won game 4, it was like, okay, yeah, whatever. They've extended the series. And after they won game 5, I remember my favorite teacher, Mr. Goldfine, had the projector thing, the slide. And he was like, before class starts, we have shit to do today, stuff to do. He would never swear. He was like, we have stuff to do today, but here are the answers to whatever questions you have. And it was like, 1, I can't believe they're doing it. Like, I can't believe it's happening. 2, blah, blah. And everything was based in like this feel of like, we're kind of watching something here. That happens after game 5. It doesn't happen after game 4. It started to because of the convincing nature in which the Oilers won game 4. But after game 5 and for game 6, the feel then is like something's happening here. I don't know if this is happening, but something's happening here. So that is why I place so much emphasis on the importance of the Panthers winning game 5. Sean, give us yours because yours was the most interesting. Asshole.
Florida Panthers 0%. I'm not worried at all. There's a reason teams never win 3 or never come back from 3 straight leads or 3-0 deficits. It doesn't happen. So go ahead, win game 5, Edmonton. I still think you lose in the series. I will not be worried until it gets to game 7, and then I will put it at 50% because at that point it's just a coin flip to me. Oilers 97% because they kind of have to win this game, but even if they don't, hey, maybe Connor McDavid will win Conn Smythe. And he wears 97, so that would be cool, I guess. You'll have a little bit of a silver lining, even if you manage to lose. So yeah, I'm genuinely not worried about the Florida Panthers.
Can I just say, I feel weird referring to you when I'm talking to people who don't know you. I have to refer to you as our producer because that's just the easiest way. But I consider you a friend, and most importantly, I consider you like the third real ass voice on this show. But I look at that graphic and I say, that's my fucking producer.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Because both of those were chosen, A, because that's what's in your heart, but also it drives conversation.
Yes.
That was like a Jimmy Stewart ass need to win a meter out of Sean.
Sean completes us.
Yeah.
Here's a very real question. What would make you feel better if we're talking about an Edmonton Oilers victory in Game 5, a Game 5 in which they once again blow out the Florida Panthers, or a Game 5 in which they steal a win?
For me, that's easy. I think it's they blow out the Florida Panthers because I think you got like at that point it's just like, oh, now the Florida Panthers don't have a goalie, and that terrifies me if I'm a Florida Panthers fan. If they steal a win, whatever.
That's my answer too. But I think that both are very, very scary for the Panthers.
I think that it would be better for the Oilers to steal a win because
they're still going to blow them out at some point again anyway.
That, and I think that the fewer like answers that the Panthers can like wrap their head around, the better it is for the Oilers. So like an 8-1 blowout victory, the Panthers can say, all right, we throw this game in the trash. But if the Oilers then turn around and win a game in which they're not supposed to win, like the Panthers can go head into Game 6 saying, all we got to do is stick to our game. If we play that kind of game, we're going to get the results in Game 6. And they don't make any adjustments that might light a spark or something. And I think if you have varieties of victories heading back to Edmonton for Game 6, that's more beneficial to the Oilers in like the grand scheme of things.
I think that's really good.
My only thing is
he kind of got me.
I don't think like if you lose another blowout, I don't think you can throw that away because then you've gotten blown out twice.
No, I agree. Like you throw out this one for sure. But
yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean,
but if they get blown out again, I think big changes will come in terms of like a lineup, and maybe Maurice strikes something, gets his team a little bit more fired up, being like, yo, you guys are letting this slip away. I think if they lose a close one or a game in which maybe they, quote unquote, deserve to win, you're talking about like, just stay the course. Stay the course, boys.
Both give 2 scoops of doubt because getting blown out gives you the thing we talked about yesterday and the thing that Sean just mentioned of like, we don't have a goalie right now.
Yeah.
We are worried about that. And the losing a close game plants the seed of, I didn't know that they were game stealers.
Right.
We're the game stealers.
Well, I mean, it's exactly
like what a Stu steals a game.
What we talked about after Knobloch's, or what you specifically said after Knobloch's quote, Pete, like you've lost every game in every kind of way. So what do you mean you know that you can beat this team? And if that happens, if the Panthers are now still up 3-2, but they've lost a blowout and a close game, it's just like, they can win any kind of way too. And that's definitely not a reassuring feeling. But I think, like Dacky said in the chat, if you get blown out back to back, I think you have to start being like, maybe we're just not a good team. Like we've lost 2 games now. We got blown out 2 games, and really we've been the worst team in 3 games. Like, boy, what's going on there? I don't think you can't take anything away from that. Whereas if you lose a close game, you could still be like I would, if you lose a close game in the Florida Panthers, I wouldn't want Paul Maurice to make changes because you don't like that. To me, that's overreacting.
Yeah, because you weren't solved. You were defeated.
You just lost. Yeah. And so like, I think you feel a lot better losing a close game because at the end of the day, it's still hockey and you're still up. Like you can lose on any given night and you're up 3-2 still. Like, I think it's way worse for the Florida Panthers to have the doubt of like maybe this team is actually just better than us than it is to be like, damn, even when we play well, we can't win. Like I think they'd be fine in that situation.
Well, we'll continue the conversation and do all things Game 5 tomorrow. We're also going to have a live stream for it. I cannot commend you both enough for the job you did on the live stream. Shout out Ryan Lambert. Also shout out Pete currently because the last 5 minutes you were so in your fucking bag. Literally. You're breaking things down, eating fucking candy on quote unquote air, which is excellent behavior because that is, I'm not like trying to put too much focus on you right now, but like
I'm fine with it.
That's displaying a level of comfort that even if people listening hear some like chewing or whatever, that's what I want.
I don't think you can. I'm not hearing anything.
But I want everyone so comfortable and so not thinking about how do I look, how do I do whatever, that it's just great takes, great conversation, Great observations, and we got all 3 plus candy out of Pete
Great
there.
candy. I mean,
Those are so good.
Sean was talking these up when
Can
we
you
went
give me
to
2? I didn't get
Yeah.
any for myself.
Crazy.
Sean
move.
was talking those up when we were in Toronto, and I didn't really buy the hype because like I'm a peach rings
I'm
guy.
a huge peach ring guy. Yep.
And I was like, buddy, I've had those before. I've had peach rings.
That's what I thought.
I gotta be the same.
Yeah.
The Maynard's peach fuzzy
They're a
peaches.
different kind of gummy candy.
They're different. They're a different kind of gummy candy.
They're built
and,
different.
And there is a significant like dissimilarity between these and peach rings. Peach rings are way more chewy, a little bit more rough of an experience. These are
They're like
fucking
juicy.
so juicy.
They're amazing.
So soft.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This might be my favorite candy.
Well, shout out Leah Merrill of PHNX. She's the one that put
Yes.
me on originally, Toronto native. They are the best. Speaking of awesome orange things, I don't know if you saw text. We got a sneak peek of the Ducks jersey and logo during the show. Got a little sneak peek that the Ducks released of the orange eye and the eyebrow. I don't know what to take away from it, but it looks mean.
I would say the thing that you take away more is the gold.
Yeah,
The
for
gold-
sure. It's much shinier,
The
like we kind of talked
the
about.
sparkly gold that is and I guess you can take away the orange that is presumably going to be the jersey, which is a little bit darker than
That's
the previous
a fire
orange.
orange.
I like it a lot.
I love it. You know what that kind of reminds me of? That kind of reminds me of like maybe it's just the shade or maybe it's the screen or whatever. It reminds me of like Roman Emperor orange. Like it is bordering on. I got to squint to. Is that red or is it
It's a
orange?
little, yeah, kind of got like a scarletness to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the big takeaway is the shiny gold. The death of the sand is
That jersey is going to fucking hit. And
I think
I'm
it's
going to
gonna-
buy a Frankfurt Toronto one.
I think
so
it's gonna
fast.
rock.
Oh yeah.
very, very hard. What do you think they do helmet wise? Black,
That
orange?
is a good question.
I know that you bozos are going to want the gold.
No,
but-
I think it'll
No.
look awful in this.
Okay.
I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't
I
really.
think it looked awful with the Golden Knights. Like, that's a
I
good
would
question.
say black.
I would say maybe matte black
A matte
or
black would
matte
go
orange.
Matt, I think
Matte black would be sick.
Matte black
and
would
it would be an homage to my favorite Ducks mask, which was Jonas Hiller,
Yes.
who had the matte black, basically welder's mask. And if memory serves, the cage was gold.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Tessa
hire
called
him
it
to
a blood
design.
orange. A blood orange is. I think that's a good way to describe
Blood
it.
orange is a very good way to describe that.
Well,
yes.
there's a there is so I know this lightly from experience. There is a color of car that Volkswagen and Kia and a bunch of the car manufacturers have that is called fire orange. And when nobody could get any cars, when no cars were available, if you were to need to get a car, you were getting a fucking fire orange one. I saw that and I was like, I've seen those. You go to like any grocery store, look at the parking lot, you're going to see a million. You're going to be like, who's choosing that color car?
desperate people.
And it's people who needed a car.
Man,
Okay, get off
cars
my
used to
back.
be so much cooler. I saw a graphic the other day of like the share of like colors by car over the years,
Mhm.
and it was just like back in the day there used to be like 100 different colors of cars. So you had purple
Yep.
cars, you had pink cars. Now everything's black, silver, white, gray. That's basically it.
Well, if you have a red
Lame.
car, you're famously more likely to get pulled over by the police.
That's true.
Huh.
Yeah, for speeding. Dacky says you need to try Coffee Crisp chocolate bars. Of course, the best.
I'm
so
not a
good.
chocolate guy.
I had great behavior. I didn't get any Fuzzy Peaches or Coffee Crisp while I was there.
I think that's bad behavior.
However, well, I was like trying to be a little okay to myself. However, each time I relaxed by having a little pot in Edmonton, I would then go to the vending machine in my hotel and get all dressed chips.
Oh yeah,
And
man. Oh yeah, man.
When people ask how was Edmonton, like that was really my. I was
Talking
fucking
my
mad dog
language.
with the gummies.
It's crazy to me how little stuff, like how much culture makes it over the border from Canada to Buffalo, but none of the snacks other than Tim Hortons. Like we didn't have peach rings, or we didn't have fuzzy peaches, we didn't have coffee crisp, we didn't have all dressed chips. Like none of it, they hardly had ketchup chips. It never made it over.
Man,
That's a
Buddy,
sad thing.
you can order Maynard's from Amazon.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
I
But
didn't
yeah.
know that, but that's about to
You
happen
order all
for
dressed
sure.
chips too.
Tonight, yours truly will be on Oilers Now with Bob Stauffer making the debut. Cannot wait. He rides for what chaos, man. He does so much for us, and that is a definition of someone who doesn't fucking need to do that.
Well, in terms of what?
Like
coming
show
on
us
the show.
love, support us, have us on his show. That is Oilers Now is like meet the press of Canada.
I didn't realize that that Bob like listened to the show, which would be suggested by something that he said to you.
He sent me a text yesterday that was a reference to the show, and I was like, at first I saw it, I was like, oh no, is this something that I don't get? Did he? Can I not hang? I'm definitely not as cool as Bob, but did I? And then I was like, this is something that we just said on the show.
Yeah.
He's the best. He's incredible. And truly, when talking to people up there, he was like, hey, this is DJ. If you don't know this podcast, like watch out because this thing's fucking coming. What a guy. Incredible. Also saw Gene there, man. What a great time. Peter, if you could instruct everybody to smash a button.
Yes, please hit the like button right below the video player. We would very much appreciate it. We'd love to see how high we can get those like totals. We also want to see continued growth on the YouTube channel. So please subscribe if you haven't yet. We would very much appreciate it. We've got some stuff coming. DJ is going to do a vlog, apparently, that he has yet to start, but is going to come from his time in Edmonton. I'm very excited to see that.
He
He
also
also has his Pro Shop Wars
Yeah.
from Edmonton. It's great stuff. Getting to feel like I was walking with you through the Pro Shop in Edmonton was a cool experience. It was my first time like getting to experience Pro Shop Wars as a consumer, as a viewer.
But the bulk of it still ended up being you guys, which was the best. I loved the part where we kind of crudely did a reveal where you were back here. I
agree. And I want to continue that for future Pro Shop Wars where we could do the hall reveal in a completely separate location. Because oftentimes the hall reveal is like the awkward part of Pro Shop
It's just at
Wars.
the end,
where we're at the end and we're trying to find a spot where like we can do it. I think like just like a separate
delayed.
location, separate kind of entity that's just attached to Pro Shop Wars is a good idea.
I was gonna start giving you the things that are in this bag from the Pro Shop Wars, but that maybe if anybody hasn't seen yet, just jump on there, go on the YouTube, watch that Pro Shop Wars. There are a lot of comments. Everybody very happy with Sean in that Pro Shop Wars. Strong agree. As participants in it, Pete and I understand why people would watch that and say, wow, way to go, Sean.
I think my favorite part of the Pro Shop Wars in Edmonton was the Oilers graveyard section that they had, where it was like James Neal. Who else was there? There was like a bunch of like, who's gonna want these jerseys?
Yeah, it was a
Like,
bunch of.
Unfortunately, Darnell Nurse was in there amongst like former players.
Do you know how much the James Neal jersey was?
$180.
Canadian.
500 Canadian.
Jesus.
No way.
I passed.
Was it
I
game
didn't get
worn?
it. What's that?
Was it game worn?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
But it was
okay.
also, but like for a game worn jersey, it was just being hung up like it was a fucking like
Not game worn jersey.
kids fucking. I was gonna say like hunter shirt, but a hunter shirt is clearly the coolest thing they had in there. It was amazing. I want to go back to, obviously there was a lot of talk of
Lucic was in there. Yep.
do I get the
Stu.
do I get the stew? The stew is still in play, let's just say. Because if this goes farther, and we've said that we're going to 7, if we go, or that we go to Florida for 7, don't fucking forget, I make one fucking phone call right now. I make one phone call. I've got somebody in Edmonton that's going to that pro shop, getting the jersey, and then I make one more phone call. They meet up with my friend Emily, give her the jersey, and say, hey, next time you see DJ, give him this jersey. I make a third phone call, and I say, Emily, just check another fucking bag. You work for the league. Expense it. And in Florida, who's got a white Stu Skinner jersey? Me. That's who. 3 phone calls over the course of like 4 days, in and out.
I thought you were going to say I make one phone call and I'm back in Edmonton for Game 6.
Oh, buddy.
I thought that was more likely to be the scenario there.
Dude, I'm really
I do like the idea of you booking your plane tickets by phone call. One plane ticket to Edmonton, please.
Hey, it's Dave. Let's fucking do it. Nah, man. One of the best parts of Edmonton, though, is especially after game 4, walking down the street, people that were like, I'm so fucking glad you came, man. And I was wearing just a fucking black t-shirt, dressed like a fucking asshole. And these Oilers fans, man, they don't mess around. You do content with Bob, with Jack, with Gene. You are their family. With Tyler Yaremchuk, with Liam. I had this moment with Liam at the end of game 4 where we were just like, hey, I might not see you again for a little bit. Thank you for fucking everything. Thank me for everything. Thank fucking you for everything. Is the best. I love those Oilers Nation guys. Aaron, the whole crew. And I met a bunch of people who wore crazy costumes. What more could you want? Okay. Oilers now this evening. Hopefully we'll try to drive some more listeners with that. And today, at some point, a vlog from Edmonton that should be a lot of fun. We love you all so much. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
We all silly like the mayor.